This is going to be something really different for me. I'm going to do a book review. And if you grew up in the Louisville area in the 60s and 70s, you probably, if you were a basketball fan, remember the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA, which, when it folded in 1976, 4 teams, among them the Pacers, the Nuggets, the team that's did play as the Nets. I can't even tell you what they are now. I haven't followed pro basketball since 1976, but I know the Pacers and the Nuggets went in. But even though I live in southern Indiana, I was a Kentucky Colonels fan. Lloyd, Pink, Gardner, and Gary P. West have wrote a book, Kentucky Colonels of the American Basketball Association, the real story of a team left behind. This book chronicles, and it is available. I did check Amazon. It's available new for $22 and change. And if you order, it said, I checked it 3-4 hours ago, and it said if you order it in 70 hours, you can get it by January 29th. So basically, easily, if you order it sometime Saturday, you should get it by January 29th, but I wouldn't guarantee it by any means because I'm not involved with Amazon. But if you grew up in the Louisville area, maybe you don't live in the area anymore, but if you were a basketball fan and you remember the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA, you remember the Louis Dampier, the one that played all 9 years, there's stories in here about him. There's stories in here about the first owners, Joe and Mamie Gregory, and their dog once denied seats to a New York Nets game, I believe it was, but they said, no, this dog gets a seat, he owns the team. This was a pedigreed dog. It's kind of a funny story, and there's a story I don't think's in the book, but Mamie Gregory was driving her old pickup truck one day by B.B. Cook Chevrolet in Louisville. It's out of business now, and decided she was going to stop and buy a Corvette. And she makes a deal, the salesman, Mrs. Gregory, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I'm going to write a check. So, of course, this is in the 60s. They call the bank. Can we take a check for whatever a vet was in them days from Mrs. Gregory in this amount? They said, you can take a check from her and up to 50 some odd $1 million. That's a story that Lloyd Pink Gardner told while he was on doing a radio interview about the book. But this book has some interesting pictures in it. I'm going to try to show one. It's a black and white photo, but people actually thought this picture, see how it shows up on here, actually thought that picture was Burt Reynolds. That is actually the late Wendell Widener, tragically killed in a plane crash after winning a championship as a member of another team. Here's a few more of the pictures. You need to order the book. If you remember the ABA, you need to order the book. There's a letter in here, I don't know if I can find it right now, where Lloyd Gardner had $50 deducted from his paycheck because he got a technical foul. Here is Artis Gilmore. I believe this is the original promo picture, and the powers that be at the Cardinals wanted him to wear number 7 since Bill Russell was number 6, and they wanted to say he was better than Bill Russell, but Artis preferred the number 53, which he wound up wearing. If you're on Facebook, if you check the Kentucky Colonels, there is Artis Gilmore blocking a shot that I call it rejection ABA style. There's all kinds of pictures, and season by season. But this book, if you remember the Kentucky Colonels, this book's for you. That talks about the title year and the 74-75 season. I was actually at that last game at Freedom Hall during a thunderstorm after the game, and of course I was a teenager, and every championship I'd seen in the NBA, fans stormed the floor. So I had pretty good courtside seats, so of course I was on the floor. Get out on the floor and the lights go out in Freedom Hall. I think some emergency lights come on. It was kind of funny. I'm just thumbing through. There's actually a picture, and again, I don't know how good these are going to show up, of the opening day roster. And that's something else. I believe Louis Dampier, I'm looking for number 10, may not be in it because he was serving out his military obligation. They talk about the various owners, the 5 owners. They talk about John Y., later governor of Kentucky, big in the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise, and Ellie Brown, who were the last owners of the team. They talk about Wendell Cherry. They go through several of the owners. Talk about the team almost moving to Cincinnati. But if you were an ABA or a Kentucky Colonels fan, get this book. I did notice one book on Amazon. They said frequently purchased with this book was another book called Loose Balls, the story of the ABA. I may have to order that book myself. But get this book. This book, I actually got a phone call. This book was out before Christmas of 2011. I actually got a phone call from my aunt saying, "Do you know there's a Kentucky Colonels book out?" Yeah, I'm about 3/4 done with it. What she was doing was thinking about getting it for me for Christmas, but I literally bought the first one I ever saw. It just wasn't gonna happen. And I was gonna wait on that one. But get the book. Let me see if I can find one more good picture in it. Here's the championship team back cover. Like I say, I don't know how good you're going to be able to see it on there. It don't look too bad. I don't know how it's going to come out when you play it, but they talk about Dr. J, Julius Erving, and I'm paraphrasing, that the 75 Colonels would have been heavy favorites to beat the Golden State Warriors in a unification title series. The ABA and the Colonels actually wanted this. The NBA turned it down from the stories. But if you grew up watching the Colonels, if you're a baby boomer, you grew up in the Louisville area in the 60s or the 70s, or even an ABA fan or a student of the history of pro basketball, this book is well worth $22. I think I paid more than that. They had them at the Kroger stores when they come out. I bought the first one I ever saw. Get the book. 2 thumbs up for the book. And that's the end of this one.